In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Autodesk's Civil 3D program to create the Traverse project and create your site plan. Now, the first thing that you need to do is you need to come over here into Blackboard. If you're following on the instructions, you need to come into Blackboard and get your template. So you're going to go into Content, Notes, Homework, and Quizzes, and you're going to scroll down and you're going to go to the Traverse project instructions and you're going to download the basic survey template. While it's downloading, you can also download these instructions and they're in the site plan instructions Autodesk Civil 3D PDF. So once you've downloaded it, you're going to move that because it's going to probably save to a download folder. You want to go ahead and move that. I'm cutting mine and I'm going to paste it into my flash drive. I'm going to put it here so I know where to find it. All right. So we're going to be using that with the Civil 3D program. So I'll go ahead and close that out. Now, the next thing is you'll have to open up your Civil 3D program. If you're doing this at home and you have it at home, or if you're doing it at school it's going to be on the toolbar on the desktop. But if you're not, then you can go to All Programs, underneath Autodesk, Civil 3D 2015. Now this is very important. It has to be Civil 3D. You can't do this work in regular AutoCAD, and it needs to be Imperial. So I've already got mine open. So this is what it's going to look like. My screen looks a little bit different than yours because I'm working at home. But let's take a look at it. Now you're going to go ahead and come up here to the application menu. You're going to come over and you're going to go New. From there, you're going to pan out to where your template was saved. Mine's in Basic Survey. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Basic Survey template.dwt. Remember, it has to be a DWT, the basic survey, to use. So I open, and it ends up looking like this. Now the difference between regular AutoCAD and Civil 3D is this tool space area, the prospector. You can open and close the tool space area just by clicking on the Home tab and the palette tool space. What it has in it is this prospector, the setting, the survey, all these different tabs. The prospector is where work gets done. You're working with point data, you're creating surfaces, you're creating alignments, profiles for the highway classes or for road work. The settings, if you click on the settings tab, if you click on the settings tab, if you click out here, you'll see that they have different styles. So settings is all about the style, how it looks, how you can clean up a drawing and make it look nice. The other difference between the Civil 3D and regular AutoCAD is this toolbar up here. We've got create ground data. We're working with survey data, designs, creating profiles and alignments. The other thing is your annotation. You can annotate by surface, parcels. All this data is different. If you don't use Civil 3D, then you don't have access to these. We'll be using the Insert tab to import points from file. Now, we'll go ahead and start on importing our points from the file. So the first thing that we have to do is, once we got our drawing set up with the correct template, then we're going to have to set up our import and import our points. Now the points are imported in a text file format, an ASCII text file format that is specifically written in the way for PNEZD. P standing for the point number, N for the northing, E for the easting, Z is the elevation, and D is the description. All of this is comma delimited. Okay, so we're going to be using Notepad to create this file to import. Now, go back and look at your Wolfpack data. I've got mine up here, and it's going to look like this. So this was what my Wolfpack data was. I've got, if you're looking at this area here, I've got points 1, 2, 3, and an X and a Y. X is your easting, Y is your northing. And you've also got your side shot. The sighted station coordinates is going to be the side shot data. Now with this, you're going to be able to go ahead, and I plotted these points. I said, all right, this is the data that I have written. I just took the Traverse data from over here and just wrote it up over here so I could easily see it easier. Now, I went ahead and plotted this so I know what my picture is going to look like. Remember that your northing and your eastings are just XY coordinates. But the way that Civil 3D needs to be written, most companies use the PNEZD format. So when we write it, we're going to write it in the format of point numbers, northing, easting, Z elevation, then description. All of this data based on a comma delimited format. Now remember what I said, you have to use Notebook or Notepad to create this text file. You don't want to create just a regular Word document. It has to be a .txt file. So to do that, go over to your programs and you can search, all I did was hit my programs, Note, and you can open up Notepad. Okay, when Notepads open up, you can start typing your data in here and then save it. On the school's computers, Notepad is usually already set on the Start menu application. If not, when you go to Start, just type in Notepad. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and take this, I'm going to move this up, and I'm going to start creating the data to make it look like this ASCII text file here. All right. So I'm going to move this one down just to get it out of my way. And notice the northeast or the northwest side shot point is actually a different number. Typically when you write your data, you're going to be using 1 to 100 or 1 to 10 for this project as a traverse number, and anything higher than that is going to be a side shot. Side shots are sometimes can be thought of as topo points, miscellaneous data like utility poles, or it's something that is you want information on but is not part of your actual traverse segment line. So I'm going to just take this data here and put it into a comma delimited format. So I'm going to say 1 comma 1524088.64. Notice there's no spaces, so I'm just going to type these up. And then I'm going to type in traverse. Okay, second point, comma, the northing first after your point number, comma, easting, comma, Z elevation, comma, and the type of point it is. Imagine if you took a point that wasn't a traverse, like the side shot would be a tree or a utility pole or a valve box, something like that. Point 3, northing, and then it's easting. And then, oops, left the last one out. No commas. Okay, traverse. I need to get rid of that comma. Oops, you got to be careful. And then I'm going to put 21, something distinguishing apart. If you put your side shots and your traverse point numbers too close together, it's going to be hard to distinguish the two. That's the reason they jump in numbers. 507.011.607, comma, 0, comma, side shot. Now, the other thing that you have to be aware of is, remember, if you don't bring in your points in the correct format, I know that this is what the traverse is supposed to look like. But if I brought it in the wrong format, it wouldn't be in these coordinate systems, okay? Now, I'm going to File, Save As, and I'm going to save this to my flash drive, and I'm going to save that in my folder, and I'm going to save it as the Traverse Homework text file, okay? Notice that it's ANSI, and you're going to click on Save. I'd already had a file name in there, but yeah, I'm going to save over the top of it. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and close that down. I'm going to go ahead and close these down also. I'm going to push this down to the bottom, close that down. Now, the next thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking this data your points data, and you're going to be importing it into the file. So what I need you to do is to go to the Insert tab, Home Insert tab, Points from File. So you're going to click on Points from File, and if you're following along in the instructions, you're going to be going up here and you're going to hit the Add button. So you're going to hit the plus, move this over, plus here, and you're going to go find your file. Mine's underneath my flash drive, and it's called Traverse Homework Text. Okay, so I open that up. Now, the next part is I got to specify a file format. Now, this is where you're going to scroll down to the bottom, and you're going to find the PNEZD, comma, delimited. Not that one, this one, PNEZD, comma, delimited. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create and add points to a point group. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click the plus button. And I'm going to call this Traverse. Okay? I'm going to click OK. If any of these options are on, if this is checked, go ahead and just uncheck it. All right? Now you go OK. And you're going to be bringing in your points. Now notice that these points have a symbol, and this symbol represents a tree, but we know those aren't trees. We need to turn those into benchmarks. Now we're going to be changing the point style. You can change the point style by individually selecting the points and adjusting the properties. Now if your properties, let's say your properties box, just in case your properties box isn't open, remember it's PR in the command line, and that'll open your properties box. If I highlight one of these objects, I'm going to have a style and a point label style. If I make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. Style and point label style. I can change these individually, and I can go, okay, I want to change that to a benchmark style, and I'm going to change that text or that point label style into PNEZD. And it'll automatically update. Now, when you click on that, notice this button, this icon right here represents the actual location of your marker. Whereas this icon, or this grip, you can actually move over and relocate your text. Now, you can also do this by changing the actual group of labels. So if I go to my prospector and I click on the plus button next to the point groups, notice that there's a no-show VCC. This one, when you see this little symbol right here, that means that it's not up to date. So you just right-click on the no-show or on any of the point groups that you've created and click Update. Now when I click on the Traverse, I can right-click and go Edit Points. Now I can edit all the points. Notice that my style up here, hold on. Notice that when I open that when I right click and go edit points, that I have my point numbers, my northing, my eastings, my Z elevation, the raw description of the point we're given, and over here we have style and point label. If you highlight just the lines that you want, oops, cancel. If I highlight just the ones that you want, so I click on the first one and I hit shift and click on that third one, you can come up here into the white area where it says style. See how it highlights blue? Right click on that and click on edit. You can actually change all those styles at once. You can also do the same thing for the point label style. Edit, and I'm going to change that to the PNEZD. Go okay. I can change the side shot, or if I wanted all of these point styles to be the same, you don't have to highlight anything. You just tell it to edit and you pick the PNEZD and it automatically labels everything. So you can do them individually. You can do them through the drawing. I'm going to change this one, and all I did was click on that empty blank and it automatically says select point style. So I'm going to say bound and then go OK, just to give it a different style. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that, and now you can see that these are different. The labeling looks a little bit different. You can actually change this, like I said, back to a different description only, or you can change it to the PNEZD. All right, I'm going to leave it like that. Now the next part says we want to connect all the traverse lines. That means I'm going to connect these 3 benchmarks. I can do that either by going to the Home tab and using the line, but notice that all the different options you can create a line by. Or you can type in L for line and start connecting the points. Here's another important part, is these points are actually nodes. So if I'm doing my O snap, that's this little box here, when I click in and do O snap settings, I can clear all of these and just click on node, because we have to click exactly on the center of the node. So just have node selected for your O snaps. Remember, your O snaps are on and off. If it's white, it's off. If it's blue, it's on. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect all 3 of these, okay, because this is my traverse, okay. Now, from point 2 to the point 21, or the northwest shot, is my side shot. The next thing I want to do is I want to label my traverse. I'm going to go ahead and close out my properties. If I need it, I can come back and open it back up, but I want to show you this. You're going to come up here and you're going to annotate. You're going to go to add labels, and you can pull this down, or you can just click on add labels, and this dialog box will come up. So if you just click on add labels, a dialog box will come up, and you're going to pick a feature. The feature that you're going to pick is line and curve, because we want to label all of these lines. You're going to change it to multiple segments, so you can click multiple times. And then you're going to leave this as bearing and distance, and you're going to leave this as is. You're not going to change the curve, because we don't have any curves in there. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to hit add. You're going to click on each one of these lines, all right? And then escape to get out of the command, and it'll look like this, all right? So now we have our bearings associated with these lines. Notice that the bearing is following the path that we traveled from point 1 to point 2. So from point 1 to point 2, we're in the southwest quadrant. From point 2 to point 3, we're in the northeast quadrant. And from 3 back to 1, we're in the northwest quadrant. Now, if we went the opposite way, we would be in the southeast. Then we would go from this point to this point, we would be in the southwest. All right, so it's very important on which direction you draw your lines, starting on point 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, or back to 1, I mean. Now, the next thing is if I wanted to change this style, if I wanted to make this text bigger or this style bigger, you can come up here and you can highlight the text. So if I picked on this, maybe I want this to be a little bit smaller. I could click on this text, and I'm going to have to pull this over a little bit so you can see it the same as the, oops, hold on. You're going to come over here to label properties. Now you can pull this down and go edit label style, or you can edit label properties. So I'm going to edit the style. Following this, you can now pull this down here and go edit current selection. Maybe I want this to be, here's the other thing. The layout in general is you have a, let me pull this down. You have component names for bearing, distance, and tags. So I may want to change the bearing text size to something that's a little bit larger or a little bit smaller. That's what this is saying. So I'm going to change this. Mine's already changed to 0.075. So if I wanted this to be a little bit bigger, I could say 0.08. Okay? So that makes it a little bit bigger. Apply and OK. And then OK. So notice that it affects your text. If I wanted to change it to something different, I'm going to go ahead and change that back. But this is how you could change text in a label. So I'm going to change that to 0.075. Your distance can also be changed. Now, if it's out in a dragged state, you can change your text height also. Drag state means, okay, this line can slide up and down. If I pull this one, I'll create a leader line. All right? Now, I want to go ahead and change the, in the instructions, I'm showing you how to change it to a specific northing and easting. So if I wanted to change this label here, I could highlight one specific one. I got to turn my properties box on. I could highlight this one and go back to just northing and eastings. Okay, so I want to go ahead and select these and go back just to northing and eastings. Oops, that's point number only. Northing and easting. I change this one to northing and easting. Northing and easting. Okay, so that would be how I could label these. Now I need to go ahead and do the last line from here to here, from my point 2 to my side shot. So I come back and add labels. I come down and go line label, a single segment, multiple segment. On this one, since I'm only doing one, I could have left it as single. Bearing over distance, add, and I put this here. Now you can pull these out and make them look nice. The other thing is if I wanted that PNEZD, let's say I changed my mind and I did want this to be PNEZD. So I go PNEZD and I want, notice, now here's what I was talking about before. Notice that this text is larger. So I could actually highlight this text and I could go right click, I could highlight this text and I can come up to annotate and change the label styles. Or I can go ahead and just click on the point label and I can come over here and create an edit and change that text style. For me, instead of using settings to change all these, it's easier to do it using the properties box. I could, like I said, I could use it using the annotate and editing the text style through here, but I'd rather come over here and edit the text style, so the label style. So I'm going to click, and once it's selected, you can change this by going create edit, and it's editing the one that you selected, the PNEZD. You still do the same thing. You go edit current selection. Now, in the layout state, see how it says the text's height is 0.1? I'm going to change that to 0.075. Okay? I'm going to do that also for the dragged state. So on the drag state, I would want to change this as 0.075 also. Now, the way to do that one is this has to be clicked as checked as stacked text. So not as composed, but as stacked text. And you're going to change that to 0.075 also. All right? Now, excuse me, you're going to go apply and OK. And OK. So now it looks like this. So I can also pull this leader line out. And you can either decide to do this style or you can decide to leave it as northing and easting. All right? Now the next thing is to be able to do a area in this traverse. So I'm going to show you how to do area now. The parcels. How to use parcels to create and determine areas. So what you're going to do is you're going to come up to the Home tab, and over here I'm going to go ahead and expand this a little bit so you can see it. So underneath here, underneath the Create Design tool, you're going to have parcels. You can pull this down and you're going to create parcels from objects. So now it says select lines, arcs, polylines to convert to parcels. So now you're going to hold your Shift key down and select these 3 lines and then hit enter, and it's going to come up with this dialog box. So it's Site 1, and this is just giving the specific information of what you've selected and as a default of where the labeling is going. I'm going to go ahead and leave this all as is. I will change this to the area label style to name, square foot, and acres. And I'm going to uncheck, no, I'm going to leave this checked, erase existing entities, because it's going to put the line work back for me. And I'm going to select OK. So now what you see is it's got its information says property 1, and I'm going to pull this over here. So now I know what the area is, but I've also now lost my lines. So I'll have to go back up here to annotate. Now you could pull down and just say parcel, or you can click on the add labels. Either use the pull down button or the add labels. So I can click on the add labels, and I'm going to change that to parcel. Now I'm going to do multiple segment, bearings over distance again, and then add. Okay. Now it says select parcel by clicking on the label. So I clicked on the label and it's asking me, do I want to label them clockwise or counterclockwise? I'm going to do counterclockwise. All right. So I'm getting my same labels as before. Now I'm going to go ahead and escape out of that. Now I can look at this again and look. The text is, it looks pretty good, but the size of the text looks a bit big for this. So I'm going to select it, and I can come up here and go property edit, or label properties. I misspoke a minute. I said you could use annotate. You can't. It's actually underneath its own. When you select an object, it's going to automatically come up and give its own ribbon bar. For example, when I select the text or the label for the line, it comes up with this ribbon bar and says line parcel segment label. When I select the point, it comes up with Kogo point, and it gives this information. So you could change, you could go edit label text and adjust how it looks, but you can't adjust the style with this one. So you'd actually have to come over here. I'm going to go ahead and close this one down. If I wanted to change this style, for example, if I pull this leader line out, look how it's stacked over here. It doesn't look very good. So I'm going to start, we're done with the project, but now I'm going to start to clean it up. So what I want is this to be on the other side. So I'm going to have to manipulate the style. So I'm going to come over when I select it. Again, my properties box needs to be on, and I can change point label style here, or if I right click, I should be able to adjust the label style in here also. But it's easier to find, instead of using your shortcuts, to edit the label style. And I don't believe it does anymore. Well, I take that back. You can't over here, so you do have to do it through the Kogo. With each version of Civil3 coming out new, they change how you can and can't do certain things. It used to be that you could right-click and change them here also. But anyway, so I'm going to click on the label, and I'm actually going to change that style so it isn't going through my text. So click on the point label style, create and edit, pull this down and go edit current selection. Now the reason that it looks like this is because it's still, see there's in the dragged state, it's as composed. You need it as stacked text. As soon as you change that, and I'm going to change the height to 0.075. As soon as you change that, apply and OK, it automatically puts it into a proper layout, okay, or at least so it's not overwriting anything. Now I want to go ahead and change the height of this text also through these labels. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to come over here. These are parcel segment labels, so I've got to change that. Still doing the same thing is I'm going to change the style, the bearing over distance, pull this down, and I'm going to go create and edit, edit current selection. Now we modified just the regular line work, but I told you all to create parcel labels. So now I'm going to change the text height here to 0.075, and this is in the dragged state. And I'm going to change it in the layout state to 0.075. The layout state means when it's attached to the line work. A dragged state means when you've got it pulled away from the line. Apply and OK, OK. Now, what it does, well, it should have. Let me try that again. Edit, create. Edit, create. Oh, I did the tag. I forgot to tell you. The component, each one of these has a component. Underneath Layout tab, it has the component bearing. I have to change that text height. Now for the Underneath the layout, I got to change the distance text height also. Apply and OK, OK. And now you can see that it's moved down. I'm also going to change this label style here. Click on it, and I can come over here. It says parcel area label style. Pull this down, edit. I'm going to change that. In the layout state, it's got a 0.15. So I'm going to go ahead and go 0.075. And in the drag state, I'm going to go 0.075 also. Apply and OK. OK. All right. So now it's looking pretty good. It's looking better. The next thing you'll want to do is go ahead and decide which point style you like best. Do you just want to use the northing and eastings? Do you want to just use the northing eastings and the PNEZD? I'm going to use PNEZD on all of mine. Okay, so I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to change that back. And I'm going to change this one back. And I'm going to change that one. I could have changed them all at once, but I'm going to do it this way. When you have a small area or a small group that you only need to do, sometimes it's easier to do it through your properties box instead of going through the prospector and doing it through the point groups and editing points and changing it there. If you have a lot here, it really depends on how many points you have, which way is going to be the easiest. All right. Now, if you notice down here at the bottom, you'll have 3 tabs. If you don't have those 3 tabs, type in option or OP for option. And what's going to pop up is your option blocks. So you're underneath display. If this button right here is not checked, display layout and tab modes, make sure that is checked. Apply and OK. And what it does is you'll have these 3 tabs. Now you're going to go to exhibits, and you should have a layout that looks like this. All right, so you're going to go ahead and update it, fill out all the information that you have, make sure that you're to a scale. Now here's another way to check your scale. Right now there's a viewport. This viewport, I could move this over here. Let me move this over here. What a viewport is, if you type in view and you pick like a rectangular command, you'll have this viewport. Now the difference between this viewport and this viewport is, this viewport, if you look underneath miscellaneous, it says display lock and it says yes, it says annotation scale 1 to 50. That is what the scale is of that drawing. This one, I can change the scale to anything that I want, 1 to 30. And I'll have to type in regen to make that look, and redraw to make that look right. So maybe I wanted a 1 to 30 scale versus a 1 to 50 scale, depending on your how big of an area you've actually got drawn. The other difference is, if this says display lock and says yes, when I double click on the inside of here, I cannot touch my paper space. What we're working in is what's called model space, paper space. So I'm going to uncheck that. So if I'm out here in paper space, that's what, when you're working on a drawing, is your tabs are called your paper space, and that would be your model space. But you can access your model space through a viewport. Notice that when I double click on the inside of it, now I can use my scroll button, scroll in or scroll out. Now when I click back on the outside, double click out here, it has a, it closes your viewport, as in it's not active anymore. But the problem is if you want a specific scale drawing, you have to adjust this. So it's easier to double click on the inside, select the scale that you want from down here, 1 to 50, and then pan to get it centered. You're going to type in pan or use the pan hand button to get it centered. Once you get it centered, you double click back outside of the model space, click on the viewport, and then come down here and tell it display lock yes. display lock, and yes. When I do that and I double click on the inside of it, no matter what I do with my scroll button, and I'm just using the center scroll, I can't touch it, I can't move it. I can double click inside of it, I can type in pan, but I can't move anything. Whereas if it was not locked, if this said no, and I double clicked on the inside of my model space and typed in pan, I can move this around. So that's the difference. All right. Now, once you get it set up that it shows your northings and eastings, your line work in your area, then you're ready to submit. Go ahead and change the text, update all your data. You'll have a 1 to 50 scale. If you decide to do a 1 to 40 or a 1 to 30, make sure you change your scale. All right. Now, once you have your drawing done, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to print it. So you're going to go to the Home tab, and you can pull, or your Application Areas tab. You're going to pull this down, and you're going to say Print. Now, at school, you're going to use the Adobe PDF printer, or you're going to send it to the room 909-207. So it's going to be a letter size. Now, I'm going to use my window, and I'm going to select from corner to corner, and I'm going to print that. It is going to be plotted to a scale of 1 to 1. I'm going to leave it as monochrome and go ahead and preview what it looks like. All right, looks pretty good, so I'm going to exit that, and then I'm just going to say OK, and now it creates a file folder. So I'm going to say Traverse Plot, and then save. You'll be submitting this in addition with your calculations for the final Traverse project. All right, so now this is what it finally looks like. Okay, so that's the how to plot your file once you're finished. Just as a side note, I noticed before when we did our project, we lost our data, our line labels. Now, if I do parcels again, and I do parcels from objects, I created this out of a polyline. All I did was trace over the top of this. When I click on it and I hit enter, I noticed I missed automatic add segments to the labels. So I'm going to go ahead and change that, and I'm going to leave it like I had before. So when I do this, it would automatically label everything as I wanted it. And I would still have, since I changed that text style over here, it automatically updates over here. So I just wanted you to be aware that I either could label them myself if there was something specific I wanted to label on each one of the parcels, but I realized I forgot to check to add the labels on this one. All right, so that's all for this video. Thanks.